August, the month in which the greatest good fortune had always come to him, and which bears his name, also brought the life of Augustus Caesar to a close. He died on the 19th day of August in the Roman year 767, which we call 14 A.D. He was at his small country house near Naples. A few days before, though in miserable health, he had sat through and tried to show pleasure in an exhibition of gymnastic games given in his honor. Following the games, Tiberius, who had been his stepfather's almost constant companion for the past 2 years, left on an important mission. He was recalled almost immediately, as Augustus felt himself growing weaker. The 19th of August was a breathlessly hot day. The dying emperor talked with such difficulty that it was not long before he relaxed and gave no more attention to affairs of state. Calling for a mirror, he ordered his hair to be combed. His cheeks were badly shrunken. He looked at his circle of friends standing about the room and asked, "Think you that I have acted my part on the stage of life well? If so," he added, quoting a Greek poet, "with joy your voices raise in loud applause to the actor's praise." Other people entered who had just arrived from Rome. Augustus inquired about one of the younger members of the family who was ill. Then he dismissed them all except Livia. He turned to the wife with whom he had lived happily for over 40 years. "Live mindful of our union, Livia, and farewell," he said, and quickly he passed away, quickly and quietly, as he had always wished he might. Because of the extreme heat, the soldiers carrying his body traveled only by night, so they were several days in covering the distance between Naples and Rome. Meanwhile, the emperor's will, written on parchment in his own distinctive handwriting, was brought to the Senate by the Vestal Virgins. Tiberius called the meeting. The senators were extravagant in their proposals to do honor to the man who had been first on their roll call for almost 45 years. Outside on the forum and in the streets, the people too were extreme in their sorrow and desire to honor their first citizen of Rome. Tiberius urged the senators to be moderate, and he warned the people not to go to excess, as they had at the time of Julius Caesar's death. The ceremony was therefore dignified and orderly, as Augustus would have wished it to be. On the day of the funeral, the coffin, which was in the shape of a golden couch, was carried from his home on the Palatine to the Forum. It was draped in purple, and on it lay an image of the emperor, just as he had been on the day of his triple triumph. Another image of the great statesman, cast in gold, was carried from the Senate House, followed by images of his famous and mythical ancestors, back to Aeneas and the goddess Venus. 2 funeral orations were spoken in his praise, one by Tiberius in front of the temple to the god Julius Caesar, the other in front of the rostrum. Then, following the coffin borne on the shoulders of the senators, a long line of mourners, headed by Tiberius, walked slowly through the narrow streets to the sound of trumpets and muffled drums, out past the Capitoline, past the Theatre Marcellus and the Pantheon, and out along the Tiber to the Campus Martius, where the pyre had been erected. Wine, oil, and spices were then ceremoniously poured upon it. The name of the dead Caesar was called out 3 times, and when no answer broke the silence, the torch was laid to the funeral pyre, and soon it was ablaze. Flames and smoke rose high in the air. As they watched, many believed they saw in the smoke the shape of an eagle rising towards heaven, carrying the spirit of the dead to his eternal place of glory among the stars. "Farewell," they cried, "farewell." And when the fire had died down at last, and the ashes were cool, barefooted and with loosened tunics, The most distinguished of those Romans bearing the rank of knights gathered up the ashes, and in company with Livia deposited them in the imperial mausoleum. Thus ended the life of the man who had reorganized the Roman Empire so soundly and so established it in the way of peace and order that the time in which he ruled was to be known to future generations as the Great Augustan Age, the Golden Age of Rome.